I recall a while back I was telling you a story about a dirt bike crash I had, and how God had been speaking to me before the thing happened, and after it happened. And I mentioned I was going to tell about another intervention, so to speak, of the Lord God and the way He's treated me all these years. Well, let's start out. I got divorced when I was, what, 25 maybe? Married the wrong girl for the wrong reasons. I think I might have mentioned that as well, but this is the rest of the story. I spent years and years, 8 years as a matter of fact, going from woman to woman, and uh, every date, every first date especially, I let the girls know, women, we were all kids, right? I was 20, 25, that I was looking for a wife, a mother, homemaker, and that went on for 8 years. Now, all the time during this 8 year journey, I kept praying. I prayed a lot, did a lot on my knees, did a lot of crying and praying and waiting. Okay, waiting and waiting and waiting. Now I knew I had to get a better job. At the time, I was shortly after the divorce. I finally got on a job with the GTE. Excuse me, it was General Telephone of California at the time. I was an operator, and I knew I was going to pay my dues as an operator before I could get out into the field somewhere else. And being colorblind, red green, getting out in the field was a difficult thing. Most of the jobs at the GTE, General Telephone, required good color perception, and I didn't have it. I had considered, other major corporations with unions, and I didn't want to do. I thought utilities would be the best way to go, and I didn't want to do electricity because high voltage scares the crap out of me. And the gas company had underground lines, and that meant jackhammering. And having broken my wrist in that dirt bike crash, I couldn't be doing any jackhammering. So I decided on the phone company, and that's where I went. So all this time, I'm, you know, waiting for my wife to appear. Now, I dated a couple of single mothers. The fact that they're mothers is not the problem. But in one of them, the kids were too old. There was no way there was going to be any bonding. Plus, the woman herself uh, she wasn't past childbearing age, but it wasn't something that she was going to be doing, having more kids at her age. And the other girl just didn't work out. I don't know what, things were kind of weird that way. But I'm still praying and waiting and all that kind of good stuff. Well, my wife to be, during this 8 year period, had moved from Mexico to Texas to live with one of her brothers in Texas. She had the green card. She had lots of help getting that green card. People, God was blessing my wife with her green card, getting her up to the USA. So she's gone up to Texas, and I finally got transferred. It had been 4 years from operator into the buildings department. And so I moved from Santa Barbara, California to Santa Maria, California for my new job. That was a story in itself, too. I had to do a lot of finagling. I went to the to the supervisor for the buildings department in Santa Barbara after I found out that the job existed. It was called buildings maintainer. And I'm kind of a cocky guy, overconfident perhaps, but I placed my faith in God. Okay, this is what I wanted, and there was nothing wrong with what I wanted, and it was going to be good for my, to get me in life where I wanted to be. I wanted to be a husband and a father and have a home and all that stuff. And so this is what I'd been praying for. So I went and saw this the supervisor for the buildings department there in Santa Barbara, and I announced that I came to introduce myself because I was going to be his next new employee. Of course, he was taken aback. How often do you hear something like that, right? But I told him that I saw a guy that I thought was getting near retirement age, and so I wanted to put in for his job. And I told him about what the job was. There was two different positions. There was the buildings maintainer, which was the lower paying job, and there was a buildings equipment maintainer. Excuse me, did I back that up wrong? I think I said buildings maintainer is the lower paying job, and the buildings equipment maintainer was the higher paying job. Now, naturally, I want a higher paying job. So the guy told me this. He says, "Well, that's I understand what you're saying here, and it's a great idea, and that you're going about it very well. But the buildings maintainer job no longer exists. Everything that's going to come up is going to be buildings equipment maintainer. I think they said the position was frozen. That's the word they used. So he said, so if you want to get on with this department, you're going to have to change your job bid from the buildings maintainer to the buildings equipment maintainer. So, okay, so that's what I did. Now, I went back to the board. I'm an operator, right? This is a cord board. Pull up the cord out of the thing and shove it in the slot, and operator, can I help you? So I went back to the board and I announced to anybody that wanted to listen that I'd put in a bid for this job and that I put in the bid for buildings maintainer because I didn't have any seniority as an operator. I'd only been there 3 years. So a lot of job bids, seniority counts a lot. And I took some advice from some other people too, and they said, well, listen, the thing you got to do is you have to specify. The more specific you are in what you want in your job, then that's going to be the one that gets pulled first. They're going to go to all that. Well, he wants all of this, and that's exactly the criteria that they're asking for here in the requisition. So I put in the job for buildings equipment maintainer, California, Santa Barbara County, Santa Maria Yard, all that stuff. So Lyle had come through. Lyle was the guy's name, the boss in Santa Barbara. And he'd come sauntering through the operator services building once in a while. I mean, after all, he is the boss for the buildings department, so he can go everywhere he wants to. And I'd keep saying, hey, what's going on? What's going on? He says, I told you, the job's up in Santa Maria. You just have to be patient. The job exists. The requisition is in there. Okay, fine. And then the boss of operator services came by one day and says, I see you talking to Lyle a lot. What's going on there? And I said, well, I'm trying to get this job over in operator services. And she says, oh, I mean, over in, the buildings department. She says, oh, and why is that? And I said, well, I want to get married. And quite frankly, this operator job just does not pay enough to do the job. I need a lot more money. And she says, oh, what does your girlfriend think about this? And I said, well, I don't have a girlfriend. And she was taken aback. And having blown it once already, I said, no, what am I going to do with a girlfriend? A girlfriend's going to need a place to stay. But things happen and they become pregnant. I can't do this on this kind of money. I have to have the money first. Once I get the money, the job, then I'll worry about a girlfriend. Shocker to her. Anyway, I went back to the board and I told everybody about me putting in for this lesser paying job because it was more likely to get pulled with my seniority. Now, two of the gentlemen that were working the board with me picked up on that and they put in for that building's maintainer job. Okay, I didn't tell anybody that I switched it to buildings equipment maintainer. I'm not going to do that. And one of them even got real snarky. One of them was a good friend of mine, and there was no problem. He just wanted to get out of operator services too, just like I did. Get out of that place. And the other guy was real snarky and says, "You're going to be sitting here when I get that job." I said, "What job is that?" He said, "Same one you put in for, buildings maintainer." I said, "Oh, that's too bad. What else am I going to say, huh?" So meanwhile, my wife to be's in Texas. Well, she has another brother that's in Santa Maria, California. So she moved from Texas to Santa Maria, California. And finally, I got pulled for that buildings equipment maintainer job in Santa Maria. I'm off to Santa Maria. I actually commuted from Santa Barbara to Santa Maria for a whole year before one of the guys that worked up there said, well, "Why are you bothering to commute? There's nothing wrong with Santa Maria. Move up to Santa Maria. Even the rent's cheaper." Okay, moved up to Santa Maria. So now my wife to be is in Santa Maria. I'm in Santa Maria. This girl had been in the same boat I was. She was single. She was 27, untouched 27. Believe it or not, this is true. My sweetie was born in a 2-room adobe hut with a, what do they call it, a terracotta roof. Really poor people. All right. So she's in Santa Maria now, and I'm in Santa Maria. And since I'm now out in the field instead of being an operator, I needed clothes that had pockets. So I went to the thrift store, found some shirts, long sleeve shirts, but they had no breast pockets. Really weird. So I found a seamstress. I got her to cut the sleeves off and put pockets on these shirts for me. And while I'm sitting there, I mentioned to her that I was looking for a wife. This is a married woman herself. She's got 4 daughters. I said I was looking for a wife. Oh, what's that all about? And since she was Mexican, I told her, listen, I grew up with Mexicans in San Bernardino, California. And I knew that a Mexican woman would never divorce me. She might shoot me, but she's never going to divorce me. I said, so I decided I was going to get me a Mexican wife this time, and that was going to be it. And I told her the whole story about how the other marriage fell apart, you know, and how it wasn't my that it fell apart, but it fell apart. It wasn't, you know, the contract was not honored by the other party, and it came unglued. So it just so happened that my wife to be was babysitting for this woman, taking care of her 4 daughters or 3 daughters, because one of them was kind of old, early teenager, 13, 14. And she said, I'll tell her about you. I said, fine, do that. So she went and told my wife about me. And my wife, of course, is leery. She's a Mexican maiden, no English. Okay, and she's here in the United States. And yes, she's been praying for a husband. Where has he been? She's 27. Hello. And she doesn't know where her husband is, just like I didn't know where my wife was. So, so the lady told her about me, and she said, well, okay, but he's a gringo. Us white guys have got a really bad reputation, or had a bad reputation down in Mexico, okay, because they come up here and they get treated poorly and all. That's a very long story, older than me. So and I was divorced. You do not get divorced in Mexico. Might be a little bit different now, but back then, this is 1987, and just something that's not done. So that was like a big no-no. But the lady told her why, as best she could. And so finally we met. All right, now, okay, we hit it off because we wanted to hit it off. Okay. Uh, First date. This is true. This is all this stuff's true. Okay. First date. We're agreeing that the only reason we're seeing each other is I was looking for a wife and she was looking for a husband. There was no other reason for us to be seeing each other at all. Okay. We're serious to the max. I wasn't here to waste time. I'd spent 8 years interviewing young ladies, and for one reason or another, they weren't marriage material. Either they were, just loose women that had given themselves to so many people. I wasn't going to take a chance and hook up with something like that. And there was a couple of girls that were, yeah, they wanted to get married, yeah, they wanted kids, but not right now. Well, I was rapidly approaching 33, which is when I finally did get married. And I'm tired of waiting. I'm going to be an old man when I've got my children, and I was already getting too old. Being able to play, catch, throw the ball, football, whatever happens. I was going to be too old for that. So I was in a hurry to find a wife that wanted a family now. So second date, we're talking about, well, if and when you marry the person you are eventually going to marry, how many children you think you want? This woman says, three, maybe four. And I said, well, I want five, maybe four. I wanted a pair of each and a tiebreaker. I thought that'd be really cool. Okay, so we agreed that we both wanted more or less the same amount of kids. And then we had to agree on discipline, which we didn't really come to a complete agreement on that, and other things. And I told her, listen, my kids are not going to public school. I went to public school. That ain't happening. You know, you're going to teach the children in Spanish, and I will teach them in English. And we'll get all of our materials we can get we ended up getting it all from Pensacola Christian College because they had a great program starting in kindergarten. Expensive, but it was a good program. So, third date. Oh, by the way, the first date we went to the park and ate oranges. For all those people out there that think a cup of coffee for the first date, no way. Superficiality. We went to the park and ate oranges. She peeled hers before I peeled mine and announced that she won. I had a winner here, okay? The woman with a sense of humor. Anyway, we got all that sorted out, and one of the things we came to an agreement on that was if we married each other, there was going to be absolutely no divorce, none whatsoever. It was not going to happen, and we came into an agreement with that about that. If we got married, we were going to build a family, we were going to stay together forever, and that was all there was to it. So we did get married September 3rd, 1987. Now, now the train of thought again, right? Well, oh my. I suppose I should pause this. Can I pause? Pause. Oh, I have to use Mouse to pause. Imagine that. Okay, here we go. Now, people like to mention love, romance, that spark, that excitement. And then later on, the spark goes out and the excitement dwindles and the woman gets bored and then she divorces her husband because she's not having fun anymore. That's actually what happened with my first wife. She said I was no fun anymore. You know, this woman wanted to get married just to get married, had no interest in being a wife. Later, she wanted a baby just to have a baby. She had no interest in being a mother. Okay, well, my wife to be, that's different. She knew what she wanted. She was going to have a husband, she was going to have a home, and she was going to have kids. We did that. Well, it was a couple of years later when we both admitted to each other that when we got married, we weren't in love. Okay, we weren't head over heels with each other. It wasn't that at all. It was a contract. We made us a contract. She was going to be my wife and I was going to be her husband. She was going to give me babies and I was going to put her in a house. And there was going to be no divorce. Absolutely none whatsoever. It was a contract. We knew because both of us had love in our hearts. We had lots of love. We just didn't, we needed somebody to give it to, you know? And the same thing with the kids. I wanted the kids so I could hug them. Sure, they're going to hug me back, but I was going to be able to hug them and play with them, you know, give my love. Okay. So we knew that because we both had love in our hearts, that love would grow between us. We wouldn't have to have this spark that went out or this excitement or all the rest of this happy crap that you can see on the internet all the time. You know, all these dating shows and I want this and I want that and I want this expensive wedding. My wifey who wanted to get married in the Catholic Church. She was totally full on Catholic. I told her I would wean her off of that. I would show her the Bible, read it, help her read the Bible, and get her to understand how far off the Catholics were. Well, she wanted to get married in the Catholic Church, and for that, there was a lot of hemming and hawing and wasting time. I wanted this wife now, and I wanted her pregnant. Okay, that's the truth of the matter. And so finally, I even broke off communication with her because I was so fed up with the fact that she was insisting that we get married in the Catholic Church. And so I went back to her and I said, "Wait a minute, let's talk about this. You want to marry me, right?" She says, "Yes." So, well, I want to marry you. Okay, we agree on that. All right, well, then this is what you better do. You go see that Padre, whatever the heck his name was. I said, and you tell him he has this alternative. He can marry us in his office on Thursday, or we'll be down at the courthouse on Friday. It's his choice. And she agreed to that. She said, okay, let's get this done. So she called this Padre, whatever the heck his name was, and told him what was going on. And we got married Thursday afternoon in his office. And if it wasn't Thursday afternoon, I know it was September 3rd. I got that part down. But that's our story. And I love the little woman from pieces to pieces, and I wouldn't trade her for the world. Okay? It's been 37 years now. She's upstairs doing something. I'm down here in my man cave where all the books are. And the TV's over there in front of me, and this laptop's in front of me right here. But 37 years, baby. Wouldn't trade her for the world, you know? And if there's a lesson for this in this for anybody at all, besides putting your faith in God, because listen, how do you do something like that? She comes to one place and then comes to the other, and I come from one place and go to the other, and we meet up in the middle. You can't tell me God didn't bring us together, okay? You just can't tell me, because I'm convinced that that's exactly what happened. I am exactly the husband that she needed, and she is exactly the wife that I needed. Okay. We got 4 kids and a bunch of grandkids now. Not nearly as many grandkids as we thought we were going to have. That's another another bone of contention with the way the world has modernized itself. But wouldn't trade it for the world. And it was because we both made the determination of what we were going to do with each other, and there was nothing going to break it. You know, love comes later. If you got this starry eyes and oh, he's so wonderful and already, you know what? That's gonna fade, just like your looks, honey, and his build. He might be a big, toughed up guy and build up now, but maybe he won't be by the time he's 50 or 60 or 71 like I am. I was never a big guy to begin with anyway. And I'm not denigrating the guys that work out. That's great. If you can do it, do it. Okay. I ruined myself on a dirt bike, and it hurts. It hurts way too much for me to try and build myself up. I learned that shortly after that big crash. Oh man. And that's not the only big crash I had. I had lots of them, and ruined this poor body of mine. But the point is, you can't go for these. The ideal should be that you're going to stay together. You're going to stay together. You're going to drop dead together, or one at a time, and you're going to meet up again in heaven with God, and it's all going to be good. You know. Anyway, that's my lesson for today. We're at 27 minutes. Heck of a deal. If you stayed with me this long, that's really great. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I ain't never going to make a cent on these videos, so it doesn't matter if you like or subscribe or whatever. If it does anything, if you got any young people that you could send this to get them to, straighten up their act, stop looking for the dream, come down to earth. What can you really get here, and what do you really want? Because, these starry eyes and the expensive wedding rings. I bought my wife a gold band. I have a gold band myself, and I never wear it. When you're working outside in the field with equipment and stuff, it's just going to get torn up. Going to get torn up, and you can't do that. So anyway, that's a big lesson for today. Cut it off at a half hour. If you made it this far, I'm happy. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you got anybody that needs to see it, send it to them. Maybe it'll help them out of their quandary. Get them to put their head on straight and think about what really matters. All right. Well, this is what? Wednesday, just afternoon, October 2nd, and I got to go to work at 9 o'clock tonight until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then I'll do that the following night, too. Anyway, see y'all. God bless and all that good stuff. My name is Jay, by the way. Let that be a lesson to you. See you.